What's up, guys? This is Benny Ricciardi with FTN Bets, bringing you our first look at the NFL betting lines for Week 5 from BetMGM and the DraftKings Sportsbook, sponsored by Bets TV. So let's start with the Thursday night game here. We have the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Rams are 2-2 against the spread, 4-0 to the over on the season, which is surprising for a team that has a really good defense. They're coming off their loss to the Arizona Cardinals 37-20 on Sunday. Seattle 2-2 against the spread, 1-3 to the over, coming off a win against the San Francisco 49ers 28-21. When I run my numbers on this game, I get the Los Angeles Rams should be favored by -2 on the road. You look at the numbers that are being offered here, you got -1 on DraftKings, -1 on BetMGM, my number being -2. I don't really have a lot of edge here for this Thursday night game, so I'm not going to be making any bets on it. The next game we could talk about, the Sunday morning game that is taking place over in London between the New York Jets, my New York Jets, and the Atlanta Falcons. The Jets 1-3 against the spread, 1-3 to the over, coming off their first win of the season against the Tennessee Titans 27-24. The Atlanta Falcons 1-3 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a loss to the Washington Redskins 34-30 on a late comeback, actually. When I run my numbers on this game, I'm pretty much right on market here. I get the Falcons should be favored by 4 points. Not a lot of value here. I'm going to have to get up early in the morning to make sure that I'm watching this game as a New York Jets fan. I don't know why we decided to send the Jets and the Atlanta Falcons over there to represent the NFL, but hey, I don't make those decisions. So now we can move on to the Sunday games. The first game we're going to talk about here on Sunday, the New Orleans Saints against the Washington Redskins. Saints are 2-2 against the spread, 1-3 to the over, coming off a 27-21 loss to the New York Giants. Washington 1-3 against the spread, 3-1 to the over, coming off a win against the Atlanta Falcons, 34-30. When I run my numbers on this game, I wind up with the New Orleans Saints -1.5, the number that they have here on BetMGM, a little bit higher than the number that they have here on DraftKings. They're actually trying to entice you to take that -1.5 on BetMGM by juicing it down a little bit to -105. Again, here, though, with my number being 1.5, I don't really have a lot of value in this game, not anything that I see that's worth betting on. I know it's a slow start, but there are going to be some games later that we do like and some value that we could find elsewhere. The next game we're going to talk about here, the Philadelphia Eagles against the Carolina Panthers. The Eagles are 1-3 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a 42-30 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Carolina 3-1 against the spread, 1-3 to the over, coming off a 36-28 loss to the Dallas Cowboys, which was their first loss of the season. So when I run my numbers on this game, I actually get Carolina should be favored by 6.25 points. So I'm kind of bullish on Carolina here. I think we have 2 to 2.5 points of value on this. The problem is the numbers that we have the value with, it's kind of in no man's land, right? Like my number is 6.25. The numbers that are being offered by BetMGM and DraftKings here are 3.5 and 4. You know, we talked at the beginning of the season about that chart and about the final scores from last year, the final margins of victories, and how the numbers between 3 and 6 are kind of dead, meaning that they don't come up very often. There aren't a lot of games. Well, 4 actually comes up a decent amount, but there aren't a lot of games that end right on a 5 in there. And the 4, 5, 6 numbers don't land on as often as the 3 and the 7 do. So when you have a situation like that, it's not like I really, those 2 points there are not actually worth the same as if the 2 points were pushing us from, say, -1.5 to -3.5 or something along those lines. In those situations, though, the spread and the money line kind of work hand in hand, right? So if you think there's value on the spread line, there's also going to be value on the money line, because if the spread line's too low, the money line is too low. So that's actually the way I like playing Carolina here today. I don't know if I really want to go ahead and lay 3.5, give up the hook and all that and be on that side. I would rather just play that -175 money line on BetMGM. Like I said, if I think the -3.5 is too low, but I don't like where the numbers actually land, that also means that the money line value is too low. So for me, very bullish on the Carolina money line here today at -175. I would use this as a parlay piece as well with a couple other games that I like the money line on, or even a spread bet that I liked it on if you could parlay the two together. I do think there's a lot of value here on this Panthers line. Next game we're going to talk about, we got the Detroit Lions and the Minnesota Vikings. Let's see. Detroit 2-2 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a somewhat surprising loss to the Chicago Bears 24-14. Minnesota also 2-2 against the spread and 2-2 to the over. They are coming off a low-scoring loss to the Cleveland Browns 14-7. When I run my numbers on this game, I actually get Minnesota minus 9.5. So I am a little bit higher than the market here. BetMGM has it at 7.5, and DraftKings has it at -8. Do I want to play those numbers either? No, it's very much similar to what we were just talking about with the Carolina game. But I do think there's value, obviously, on the money line here. And the way I really like playing this game, especially with the numbers that it's at right now, is this is going to be one of my favorite teaser pieces for the week. You can get the home team in the Vikings. You can tease them down from -8 or -7.5 down to 2 or -1.5, which means that you're teasing through the 7, you're teasing through the 3, getting a home team that we can tease through those two key numbers of 3 and 7, one of the most profitable teaser legs you can have. So I do really like the Vikings as part of a teaser here today. Don't mind them on the money line. Not really interested in laying 7.5 and giving up the hook. If it hits 7 at some point this week, which I don't think it's going to, but if it does, then I would be interested on that as well. But right now, very bullish on the Vikings as a teaser piece and also on the money line. Next game we can talk about here, the New England Patriots taking on the Houston Texans. Patriots 2-2 against the spread, 0-4 to the over. That good defense and the lack of offense is kind of the reason for that. Coming off a very close game, a very close loss to defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 19-17 on Sunday Night Football in a game that was way too overhyped. Houston Texans 2-2 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a 40-0 beatdown at the hands of the Buffalo Bills. When I run my number on this game, I get the New England Patriots should be favored by 8.5 points. So 9.5 is a little too much. I guess I'm kind of bearish on that number. I just think it's a little bit too high there. Do I think the Patriots lose? No, I obviously think the Patriots win. Would I tease them? I wouldn't tease them down to 3.5. That doesn't really get me anywhere there. I'm not betting on the Texans. I wouldn't even want to tease the Texans up to 15.5. I mean, the Texans are just not good. I mean, they just lost 40-0 to Buffalo. Do I think New England is Buffalo? No, absolutely not. But I do think New England's defense is very, very good. So if Buffalo's defense can shut them down, I think New England's defense can shut them down too. Hell, New England's defense held Tom Brady to only 19 points in that game there. Again, the weather played a factor and a bunch of other things too, but the New England defense is very good. The Texans offense is not. I expect the Patriots to roll them. I just don't think there's enough value here to bet on them. Like I said, my number's 8.5, a little bit bearish on the Patriots at 9.5 today. The next game we can talk about, the Denver Broncos taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Broncos 3-1 against the spread, 0-4 to the over. That very good defense has been keeping games down. They're coming off a loss, their first loss of the season to the Baltimore Ravens, 23-7. We had said Denver had beat up on some really bad teams in weeks 1 through 3. Wanted to see what they did against a pretty good team. They didn't seem to be up to the task yesterday. More importantly, though, they also have a quarterback situation going on right now. Teddy Bridgewater left that game early with a concussion. Drew Lock came in. Drew Lock didn't really look all that great, but we don't know what the deal is with Teddy. We're going to have to check his status throughout the week. Again, I do these videos on Sunday night, Monday morning, so we don't have any more information than that now. So we'll see how that works out later on in the week. The Pittsburgh Steelers, 1-3 against the spread, 0-4 against the over, coming off a loss to the Green Bay Packers, 27-17. When I run my numbers on this game, if Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback, I would actually have the Broncos slightly favored here. Without Teddy Bridgewater, if Drew Lock is the quarterback, my number on this game is actually Steelers -3, Broncos +3. That means there is some value on the Pittsburgh side here, assuming that Drew Lock starts. Now, again, we can't really make any moves on this game until we get a little more information on whether or not Teddy's going to play and whether or not Drew Lock is going to be the one under center. But with Teddy under center, I would actually have the Broncos favored by about 0.5 point here. Without Teddy under center, I would actually have the Steelers favored by 3 points here. So if you find out early in the week that Teddy's not going to play, the Steelers are still sitting at like -1 on DraftKings. Yeah, there's value there at -3 with the number with Lock as the quarterback. If you find out Teddy is going to play and he passes his concussions test and everything is good, I would actually think that there's value on the money line at even money on DraftKings with the Denver Broncos, because with Teddy Bridgewater under center, I actually think they would be more likely to win that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So again, can't do much with it now, but that is the way that I'm looking at this game for the week. The next game up, the Tennessee Titans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tennessee 2-2 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a 27-24 loss to the New York Jets. Without A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, which obviously affected this team because they could not move the ball through the air. Jacksonville coming in on a couple days extra rest as they played last Thursday night. 1-3 against the spread, 1-3 to the over, coming off of that loss to Cincinnati 24-21 last Thursday. So when I run my numbers on this game, I actually get, let's see here. I get that Tennessee should be favored by about 5.5 points. That number would drop down to 3.5, or I'm sorry, that number would actually drop down to a field goal, a full 3, if Julio and A.J. Brown don't play again, because we saw them against a very bad New York Jets team last week not be able to move the ball through the air when they really needed to. The Jets concentrated on stopping Derrick Henry. Not that they were able to. I mean, Henry still had 150-something yards. But the Jaguars' offense is better than the Jets' offense. And if the Jags can put up a couple points and force Tennessee to have to throw the ball and not be able to just hand it to Henry, they could have some success, just like the Jets did. The Jets scored a couple touchdowns. Tennessee had to play from behind, and they had to, I'm not going to say they abandoned the run, but they had to throw the ball. They had to come back in the game. And I think that's the way you beat this Titans team right now. You have to get them in a game script where they can't just hand the ball to Derrick Henry and play field position. And if the Jags can do that, I think the Jags can pull off a win if those two wide receivers aren't playing again. Like I said, if those wide receivers are playing, I would have the Titans favored by about 5.5 here. If they're not playing, I would drop it down to 3. I think what the books kind of did is the same thing I'm thinking, and they just kind of split the difference here until they know whether or not those guys are going to be in. Overall, though, until we have that information, you got to stay away from this game. So the next game we can talk about, a couple of Florida teams playing each other. The Miami Dolphins taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Miami 2-2 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a 27-17 loss to the Indianapolis Colts. Tampa Bay 1-3 against the spread, 3-1 to the over, eking out a victory in New England 1917 in the the wrath of Tom Brady game. Assuming Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback here again, I have Tampa Bay minus 9.5. So a little bit below where the market is right here now. Not that Tua would make much of a difference if he was in there. It'd probably be like maybe 7.5 if it was Tua. But either way, I'm pretty much on market here at minus 9.5. Yes, it is a little bit off from my number, but not anything that I'm willing to bet on. You can't really tease this game down. What are you going to get it to? 4.5? That's not really a number that makes a lot of sense here. Money line, minus 550, obviously better on DraftKings than minus 650 on BetMGM. But either way, I think that's probably a little too high. So I'm going to be avoiding this game altogether. Next game we can talk about, the Chicago Bears taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Bears are 2-2 against the spread, 1-3 to the over, coming off a 24-14 win against Detroit. Las Vegas, 2-1 against the spread. Remember, this is being done on Monday morning. They played the Monday Night Football game against the Los Angeles Chargers tonight. So that's why we don't have their fourth game yet. They are currently 2-1 against the spread and 2-1 to the over. So when I look at this game, I get that Las Vegas Raiders should be favored by about 4 points. So there is a little bit of value on the Bears. I would say that I am bearish on this minus 6 number, this minus 5.5 number that the Raiders have right now. Would I be willing to go and bet Chicago? Probably not. I don't think it's enough points, and it is kind of in that no man's land here, the 4 to the 6 or the 5.5. So I'm not really willing to bet on the Chicago Bears, but like I said, I am bearish on the Raiders being favored by 5.5 or 6 points in this game. So I am going to be avoiding this one, and I do not think that the Raiders are a team you want to include in basically anything. I wouldn't even tease this down to even money with that 6 at tease it down to even and a pick them with that 6 on DraftKings. I'm just going to be avoiding this game altogether. The next game up, the Cleveland Browns taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Browns 3-1 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a 14-7 win as an underdog against Minnesota. Actually, no, they were the favorite on the road. They were a road favorite by like 1.5 points, I think, at the close. The other side of this game, the Chargers, the other team playing here on Monday night. So far this season, they're 2-1 against the spread. They play Monday night against Las Vegas. They are 0-3 to the over. That good defense has actually been keeping games under. I shouldn't even say that because last week I think they were under by half a point against Kansas City. And the first 2 weeks, I think it was more the fact that the offense didn't put up the numbers that people thought that was keeping these games under. But so far, the Chargers have played 3 games, and all 3 of those games have gone under. When I run my numbers on this game, I actually get that Cleveland should be favored by about a point. Now, listen, if you look at the money line on DraftKings, minus 110, minus 110, it's basically telling you that they think this game is a pick 'em. They think this game is even. Even the spreads, if you look at it, yes, Chargers are -1, but they're -1 plus 100, which means that, that is likely to move to even. The Browns are +1, -120. So they juice that up because they know that that's likely to move to even. Even, the way you look at this game, these are 2 teams that are even. It's a coin flip altogether. Like I said, I think the wrong team is currently favored. I don't think the Chargers should be the favorite here. I think the Browns should actually be. I guess if you were going to play this game at all, the way to do it would be to go to BetMGM and take that -105 money line. If you can get the Browns at even money, that's really what I want. I want the Browns at even money or plus money, even if you can get it. If you have to lay any juice or go negative with either side of this game, it's probably better to just avoid it. Like I said, I think it should be Browns -1, but it's really tough to tell because we haven't seen the Chargers play their 4th game yet. We never know what's going to happen tonight, but yeah, that's the way I'm looking at it. Next game up, the New York Giants against the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants 2-2 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a win against the New Orleans Saints 27-21 in a game that not many people gave them a lot of credit for. Even at home, a lot of people didn't think they were going to play well or win that one. The Dallas Cowboys 4-0 against the spread, the only team this season that is 4-0 against the spread, which makes them the most disrespected team in football right now because the lines keep being the odds makers keep making their lines a little less than it should be there. They are also 3-1 to the over. The defense has gotten better, but the way that they're playing this year, they're putting up points and they're also giving up a lot of points. They are coming off a win against the Carolina Panthers, 36-28. When I run my numbers on this game, I get that Dallas should be favored by 6.5 points. So I actually think this is a little bit too many points there. Would I be on the Giants side? No, I'm not that interested in taking the Giants. I know that 7 is a key number we talk about. My number's at 6.5. The number being offered right now is at 7.5. Even if it goes up to 8, I don't really like that. I would say the best thing to do with this game, it's another teaser piece, right? You got a home team at 7.5. You can tease them down to 1.5. I do think the Cowboys win this game. That would probably be the best way to play this right now as part of a teaser piece. Get this down to -1.5 over there, and you can go on from that. Next game up, the San Francisco 49ers against the Arizona Cardinals. We do have to talk first and foremost here about the quarterback situation with the 49ers. Jimmy G left that last game early. Trey Lance came in and ended it off for them. Trey Lance looked okay. I mean, he did, used his legs a lot, made a couple throws there. They wound up putting up some points. Do I think they have a quarterback controversy? Probably not. They keep saying that Jimmy G is their quarterback. But if Jimmy G is hurt, then yeah, Trey Lance is going to get a chance to be the quarterback here. So we'll have 2 young dynamic quarterbacks in Kyler and Lance going up against each other in this one. 49ers are 1-3 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a 28-21 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Arizona is 3-1 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, coming off a big-time 37-20 win against the Los Angeles Rams. When I run my number here, I get Arizona -4.5. So I'm pretty much right on market with DraftKings. The best way to play this game, or at least where I think the most value is probably on that money line on BetMGM at -190. Like I said, my number's 4.5. They have 3.5 juiced up a little bit, which means that it is likely to go to -4 if it's going to move over there on BetMGM. But again, when the spread is a little bit below where it should be, the money line is also a little bit below where it should be. We talked about another game earlier with Carolina where I didn't really want to take the spread number because it was in no man's land. This one is very similar to that. But if you wanted to parlay the 2 of those together, you could take the -190 money line here, parlay it with the -175 money line over on Carolina. That is a bet that I would be interested in. I do think both of those teams win. I think there's value in both of those money lines. I just don't want to touch the spread on either game. Next game up here, the Buffalo Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Buffalo 3-1 against the spread, 1-3 to the over, coming off an absolute bludgeoning of the Houston Texans. 40-0 was the score in that game. Kansas City is 1-3 against the spread, 3-1 to the over, coming off a win against the Philadelphia Eagles, 42-30. When I run my numbers on this game, even after making adjustments and pushing everything around right here, I get exactly what they get in here. I get that I still have the Chiefs slightly favored over Buffalo in my power rankings. I have them about 1.5 better. So when you factor in the home field advantage here, a field goal is exactly what I think this game should be here. So I hate to say it, but I'm right on market on this game. I don't have a bet here. I don't think there's a lot of value here. Next game we could talk about, the Monday Night Football game, the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Baltimore Ravens. The Colts are 2-2 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, winners against Miami 27-17 last week. Baltimore also 2-2 against the spread, 2-2 to the over, winners against the Denver Broncos 23-7 in their last game. When I run my numbers on this game, I get the Baltimore Ravens should be favored by about 6.5 to 7 points. So we'll call it minus 6.75 for Baltimore. So I am a little bit below the number being offered, but pretty much right on market. I know it sounds a little bit boring, but this is what happens once you start actually getting a little more data in. We're now through 4 weeks of the NFL season. So that's a quarter of the season. Well, a little less than a quarter because they're playing an extra game right now, but basically a quarter of the NFL season. We now have a much better idea of where these teams should be standing in the power rankings and the power ratings. So that's why a lot of these numbers are a lot more, on target than they should be. One of the big things we're going to have to keep an eye out for this week is going to be the injury news, because that's going to show us if there is any value that we missed or if there's any lines that should be moving that we don't think they are. But as you can see here, the first couple of weeks we had some big discrepancies. As the season goes on, a lot of the numbers that we're getting in our power rankings and our power rating numbers are going to come out very similar to what the books have. So really, we're just looking for a couple outliers every week, 1 or 2 places that we can take some shots. And that's the way that we're going to be doing it going forward here. So this is Benny Ricciardi with FTN Bets on the Bets TV network, bringing you our first look at NFL lines for week 5. Good luck, everybody.